Alright everyone, welcome to The Ancients Part 2. Let's get into it. We start at the edge of the giant city near some rocky mountainous terrain. We see a man in robes in prayer inside of a dark cave. He stands and moves out as a giant crowd of people are found kneeling. The man tells the people to stand and make ready to consume the weak and madden the rest. As we zoom out to see thousands of dark followers, in the background we see prisoners of people being led to a cave. They are screaming as they are pushed into the cave and are grabbed, being pulled into the cave by some massive amount of force. They come out with black goo all over them as their muffled screams and panic soon come to an end. The goo begins to absorb into the bodies. The newly converted people stand with their eyes red, glaring, slowly fading into a normal eye color. Here the followers begin to spread out and move into the city to seek new prey. We pan to the ocean as we follow two of the brothers, Hastur and Gandor, with their army of Ultramen and Titans heading to the South Pole towards the Deep One's empire. They encounter several dark things along with several Shoggoths. The Ultramen dive into the water as the Deep Ones sally forth to meet them head-on. The giant battle begins. As a few Ancient Ones move to fight them, Kronos begins to battle the biggest of the creatures, as the other of his kin fight the Deep Ones, as well as the Ancient Ones. Gandor tells Hastur to continue the fight on the outside as he moves in with his men into the Deep One's empire. The Deep One's losing thousands in the immediate engagement. Kronos is surrounded, and an Ancient One grabs hold of him and is pulled away from the battle into another entrance. Gandor and his forces begin to destroy the ruined-looking city of the Deep Ones built into stone. They are met by a bigger tainted Ancient as Gandor and a handful make it to where the center is. They see turned Ultramen come out to meet them and fight. As Gandor begins to push them back, they begin to transform. He burns them as they continue their transformation, and ahead we see the priest ship inside of the temple. And inside is a man. Gandor thinks it's Hastur at far glance, but it's his long-lost twin, Cthulhu. His body begins to transform, and Gandor is soon overrun as he backs out to the main invading force and places high-intensity explosive in the area. The twin comes out fully transformed and chases Gandor. The force exits, taking heavy losses, and as Gandor and the remainder of his forces get near the exit, the city explodes into a large blue light. Gandor is thrown into the ground and wounded. Dust settles all over him in the water. Meanwhile, Hastur continues the fight on the outside and spots Kronos being taken away. He orders for the main force to concentrate on protecting the entrance. The flying kaiju begin to fly overhead into the main wasteland on the surface. They begin to destroy all corrupted life and dark ones. Hastur moves to find where Kronos was taken. As he makes his way into the caves and underwater caverns, he sees Kronos being swarmed by an unknown creature with tentacles. Kronos slowly starts to absorb the features onto its body as the creature begins to dissolve. Hastur begins hearing millions of whispers, asking for Dagon, the son of Kronos. Kronos is then saved by Hastur, who obliterates the being and cleanses him. Kronos was slightly altered, but not fully converted. Hastur worked to move him back towards the sea, towards Gaia. Gaia is soon overhead to heal the wounded Kronos. The island soon roars into a giant explosion. Hastur begins commanding the remainder of his forces to scourge the island and burn everything as the land starts to sink. In the distance he spots Gandor. He begins to hear more whispers. Yeoman Gandor, he hears. He sees Gandor, who wakes in a panic. Hastur tries to call for Gaia, but Gandor tells him to run. He begins to transform into a giant snake. He tries to communicate more with Gandor, but his thoughts only think of eating the world. He grows bigger than the remainder of the forces are able to handle. His head shoots up into the sky, nearly piercing the outer atmosphere. He hears his uncle arrive at the battle. Atun, his uncle, arrives to battle the transformed Gandor. The presence was absent, as all that could be felt was insanity from Gandor. Atun grabbed his head as he flung him into space. Hastur tried to talk to his uncle as he was told to worry about Gandor later, and to return home. Hastur stood shorter than his uncle, who was at least 50 meters taller. They begin final checks of the Deep Ones that destroyed the Empire, and begin to move back to their capital. On Mars, we see the commander's small force return from Earth as he begins to prepare the defenses of the Red Planet. We hear them receive an alert from an oncoming return of the faraway planet flung in a head-on course for the Golden Planet The commander alerts the Empress on the Golden Planet to prepare for destroying the oncoming planet. We pan back to the out-of-orbit planet as the people are evacuating and moving for distant star systems. Orion and his main force head on to the Golden Planet to be ready to destroy the rogue incoming planet. As they arrive, they see the Empress summoning her powers to be ready to destroy the oncoming planet. The leader, Orion, is informed of the successful battle on Earth and that Gandor has been transformed, as well as being ejected to the far edge of the solar system, temporarily until the immediate threats have been neutralized. The planet gets closer as it is soon blasted by the Golden Planet into chunks. As they prepare to destroy the more harmful chunks towards the sun, the dark forces arrive in great numbers. Orion is set in charge of returning to the Red Planet with a small force, while the rest engage with the Dark Old Ones. The Empress attempts another attack at the arriving Lukthu, but is immediately engaged with Shub-Nigrath. The battle rages on, with millions of Dark Ones overrunning the forces of the Golden Planet. The Empress is defeated, but is saved by the Emperor, who shoots Shub-Nigrath to the sun. He is then placed into a stasis. Lukthu begins to aim the Golden Planet towards the Red Planet, as now Jormungandr bites into Lukthu. The planet is shot off as the Empress attempts to slow down with a few Elder Gods. Lukthu has one of its corner wrapped by Jormungandr, and Lukthu is wounded, but flings Jormungandr towards the same direction as the Golden Planet. Lukthu begins to bleed black substance and flings pieces of the destroyed rogue planet towards Mars and Earth. Orion leads the first layer of Mars defense, as they see the Golden Planet shot off into the void on a monitor. We pan back to the Earth capital in the north. The city is now in a battle. With friends and loved ones turned to foe, we see the humans attempt a defense against the turned. Several Titans move to intercept the followers, but an even bigger foe begins to catch unsuspecting Titans and consuming them. They are then converted, and we follow the people attempting to escape into the Cave of Creation. Slowly we see the Dark Ones transform into dark beings. The armies attempt to stop them but are overpowered and consume themselves. Fruring stops a major assault, allowing many to escape. He moves in to fight the Old One. It takes the shape of a man and begins to tell him how honored he would be to duel him. His mother, the Queen, arrives to fight the other Dark Ones that come out of the caves and grow to a height that towers over the city. Fruing tells her that he will handle the smaller one. The creature laughs as it introduces itself as Nyarlathotep. They begin to fight as slowly Fruing begins to take too much damage. Pieces of his body start to turn wolf-like. Meanwhile, his mother does severe damage on the larger creature. As she burns at the creature, Caesar arrives to assist Fruing. They manage to cut Nyarlathotep in half as he retreated towards the sea. The giant shadow creature named Antu is able to split itself and wrap around the queen. Though it attempts to consume her, instead she begins to transform into a giant serpent herself. Fruing rushes to burn Antu with Caesar's help. Some of the people witness all that is happening and begin to pull the queen as they cry for her safety. They cry out her name, Anantasasha. For a moment she regains clarity and turns to Fruing and in a panic says, "My son, I've forgotten your name. I'm forgetting." She then continues to transform into a giant serpent. The people who were helping her seem to become docile as their memory begins to be stripped from them. Caesar and Fruing push Antu back into the ocean as it becomes weak and fades into the edge where it begins to enwrap around a tree. It becomes dormant and is put in a stasis by Fruing. Fruing rushes to his mother who is transformed into a giant serpent. He begins to start forgetting his purpose as Caesar helps him push his mother into the sea. When Fruing falls to his knees, he asks Caesar for his name. Caesar, confused, calls him Fenrir. Fruing tries to see clarity, but he begins to see the return of the forces from the south led by Hastur. Gaia and the remainder of her kin attempt to heal the survivors. Hastur approaches Fruing, where he asks what happened in the capital. He attempts to, but has no recollection. The people coming out of the cave approached and confirmed with the Ultramen that they had fought off the Dark Ones who consumed the people to turn and transform the Queen. Several other Titan Guardians as well. Gaia attempted to heal the Queen from her serpent form but grew so weak, instead was able to lure her to another location as she was beginning to affect the Ultramen and Titan Guardians. Gaia barely makes it back to the mainland of the capital as she is found by a pregnant woman who attempts to care for her as she regains her strength. Hastur begins to search to find his father, Anki, but is unable to find him. We end the episode with Anki in front of Lukthu. He begins to open a black hole. Atun meets up with Anki and begins to hold back Lukthu as Anki summons this black hole. Atun looks to Anki and tells him there is no going back. He says that it will buy the rest time. They are then sucked into the black hole as it dissipates. Now, I mixed a lot of mythos in this episode and added my own creature. He's a very blob, almost Tedora-like kind of creature, but like a predecessor of what's to follow. Now, a lot of this follows a more tragic take on the fate of the gods, and not sure if I should stick with fantasy or go more science fiction, so I'm trying to keep them as close as possible to being balanced. Do you like the direction? Episode 3 and 4 will have a bit more horror influence. What parts did you like? One thing I'd like to add is that Nyarlathotep loses some of his memory in the escape. Also, the woman that cares for Gaia at the end becomes pregnant with twins. We still have a ways to go, and the Battle of Mars, and of course the grand final Battle of Earth, including the split event that's mentioned in the Mothra outline. I'm going to try to finish the next one at the end of the month so I can make some more progress with Ultraman. Anywho, tell me what you thought in the comments. Appreciate it. See you guys. Lord Commander Guts, aka Mike G, signing off.